Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
The podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we did a poll for our Patreons and our patrons on Patreon, whatever. And
our Patreoning patrons.
Yeah, and we throw out some characters that we were just kind of interested in reading ourselves, and then seeing if what other people would want to listen to or find episodes about. And one of those options was voted on. We had a tie between the Spectre and Animal Man. So this week we did the Spectre by DC Comics. And John, had you ever heard of this character or know anything about this character?
Yeah, I'd heard of him a little bit because when we did the Crisis series, I remember he popped up. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and then I've seen him.
He generally pops up in all the Crises.
Yes.
So. Because when he shows up, shit's going down.
And I remember watching some DC animated things, and I remember I think one of them, Gary Cole, did the voice of the cop and then the Spectre.
Who's Gary Cole?
That's the guy from Office Space, Lumbergh. He's the.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hey, Peter.
If you could show up on Saturday and also work Sunday, that'd be great.
I feel like I'm right in that. But either way, I remember him popping up in a animated thing or two.
Okay.
Some of the DC animated stuff's real good. So.
Okay, yeah. So this character's one of those. I was telling you earlier, one of those characters that I just knew, like before I even read any of it, that I was going to like it or have I had an attraction to, and that's happened a couple times. Mostly with DC characters. I can't really think of a Marvel character that it's happened with, but it's usually the weird D-list characters. I'll just see them and know, hey, that looks cool. I think I'm going to like that.
You're saying you had a physical attraction to a comic book character?
Yeah, he's pretty hot.
You were looking at him, you're like, hey, that ink's coming off the page at me.
Yeah, exactly. What's that from?
Nothing. I just...
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing some weird, New Zealand comedy or something.
No. I did feel a little Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
Korg, saying the hammer pulled you off. What?
Yeah, exactly.
You had an intimate relationship with his hammer.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when you said that. It was just.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just I see these characters, and this is definitely a character to me that Marvel would never ever be able to do. It is way too dark.
It is pretty damn dark.
And way too fucked up and not heroic enough or whatever, not Marvel enough.
No, I definitely it's a stretch to call this character a hero.
I don't know if you can, but I like him for that, actually. I think it's a weird comic that you would never get anywhere else, and it's kind of a deep cut. He's not a very well-known character, and there's been multiple of them. I think when we were talking about reading this last week, I said there's this original Spectre named Jim Corrigan from I think originally the 40s or whatever, and then he lasted until the mid-90s, and then Hal Jordan, when he died and went crazy and everything, he became the Spectre for 5 years or whatever, and then he was reborn, and then there was another Spectre named Crispus Allen that hasn't really done anything either. I think all the series, the full runs of them, have come from Jim Corrigan's run, so that's kind of interesting. I mean, now after reading this, I kind of want to read all those, and also, why hasn't anyone written the Crispus Allen badass Spectre series? I want to see that. So, but the reason why this character is morally gray, at the very least, is because he thinks he's God's judgment for all evil, and evil isn't really it's a black and white thing to him. It's not there's no levels, right? Yeah. So you steal a stick of gum, guess what? You're evil.
You're evil.
You murder someone, guess what? You're evil. Which I guess makes sense because, in the Bible it literally says lying is the same as, murder or whatever. So or even the thoughts of cheating on your wife or something is the same as actually cheating on your wife. Things like that. It's okay, well, it's very black and white, right? So yeah. This is where he's coming from. So there's some scenes where he goes ham on some people that you're ooh, I don't I don't know how I feel about this. Yes, they're guilty of whatever they were doing, but should they be burned to death in a vat of boiling acid? No. Probably not.
Probably not.
You know, so things like that happen in this, and you're like, whoa! But he's the hero of the story, so it's kind of a fun juxtaposition of morality and feelings, and it makes you question stuff while you're reading it. Like, what do I think about this character? Which you don't really get very often in comics, and this really felt like a Vertigo comic to me, even because of how violent and fucked up it was. Like this could be a Sandman character, or especially the art in this really felt like Sandman to me, like Sandman or Hellblazer or whatever from the same time period. This is from 1992, so though Sandman had been around for about 4 years at that time, and like was kind of wrapping up around now, I think. So like, I guess probably they were like, hey, let's kind of do that, but in main DC continuity. So I like that fact about it. And so let's just dig into this thing. Before we dig in, actually, I should say thank you to our patrons, because we really love reading this, and we're going to read Animal Man next week for the other tied title. And so we just want to say thank you to Hoku and Otaku Mike for being our patrons.
Yep, we appreciate y'all.
Yeah. And if you would like to join our Patreon and be able to vote on our polls every month to have us choose one, normally we're going to do one book that you all vote on, but we did two this time because, one, I've been wanting to read Animal Man for a while, and then also, like, we only have two people, so it's kind of like, well, might as well just do both of them. So, but once we get a lot more people in there, we will have a poll for one title you guys get to pick a month, and you guys can vote on it. And maybe, every now and then, I'm sure if there's like a close tie, we'll just throw the second one in there or something. But yeah, so thank you once again to our Patreons, and our patrons. If you would like to join our Patreon, you can sign up at patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word. And also, while you're there, just so you know, if I do the Swamp Thing podcast every week, where I'm going through every issue of Swamp Thing. We are on issue 94 of this as of this week. So we're making it through the whole 80s run of Swamp Thing. We've already done volume 1. We're into volume 2. We just got out of the Alan Moore and Rick Veitch stuff, so we're moving forward on that. So if you like Swamp Thing, or have ever been interested in Swamp Thing, and you want to know more about him, or just not have to read 94 issues yourself, and just, while you're at work or driving or whatever, have me.
You get the abridged version.
You get the abridged. Actually, it's not abridged because I read the entire issue. So, but I don't read it to you. I actually just explain what's on the page, break it down for y'all, point out some funny things or things that didn't make sense to me maybe, or things that I thought were cool or whatever, and or things that I'm confounded by, especially in the Alan Moore run. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, it's a fun time, and if you ever were interested in that, you can get that weekly. We release that. And then also, I do a Hellblazer one, the same style. We're on issue 24 of Hellblazer this last week. And this week, I think we're on 25. So, same thing. We're breaking that down. But that is an actual, separate tier on Patreon that you can go to right now. And we have a special superfan sale going on for that. So, there's a limited number of spaces available for that. And I think it's $2 a month. So, if you would like to get all the perks of us shouting you out and voting on the polls, and also getting our third podcast, that's the Hellblazer Matt's Minis, go check that out and sign up if you would like to. So with that being said, let's get into the Spectre, John.
Okay.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say I also wanted to make note of Tim Sale.
Oh yeah, duh. Oh yeah, and also, if you didn't know, Tim Sale passed this week, who's one of our favorites. He's a podcast favorite.
Yeah, he's been one of our favorites. Definitely, Matt definitely, brought his art to my attention, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is kind of made me feel like little Darwin Cook, and then in some of it, and then a little I don't know, his style.
He's got
really
a Mignola vibe, but he's very unique.
Yeah,
he's got similar styles.
It quickly became one of our favorites, and so it was just really sad to see this week. I mean, this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, we had George Perez, Neil Adams, and now Tim Sale die.
Yeah.
Man.
So if we've done several of theirs, or Tim Sale's comics, especially the ones he's done with Jeff Loeb. So if you want to check those out, we'll link some of those. And
yeah, we can link all those, or at least most of them, or whatever. I think we've done literally 10 episodes maybe.
I think so. Yeah,
I'd say 6 to 10 probably episodes of him and Jeff Loeb. So
yeah, we just want to give a shout out as far as it's a sad week, and he will be missed. Yeah, and we're glad we have his art to continue on.
Yes,
and so Jack, definitely check out those podcasts, and let's spoil the crap out of how amazing they are.
Yeah, exactly. And then, go buy them yourself because they're fucking awesome.
Yes.
So, but anyway.
Now
we get to the Spectre. So the Spectre, this is the one from 1992. This is technically volume 3 of the Spectre. So by that, I mean, volume 1 is all the Golden Age stuff. It goes until 1985, I think. And then volume 2 starts in 1987. And then, so it's like after the final or Crisis on Earth, or Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Okay.
That happened, and then that series picks up right after that, and then it ends. And then this one is from 1992 to, I don't know, 1998 or some shit like that. So this ran a good chunk of time, and I believe John Ostrander wrote all of it. So it's pretty consistent title there. And then Tom Mandrake did the art for all of this. I don't know if he did the whole run, but I know I have a couple of these issues that go up to like the 40s, and his name is still on it. So I mean, you do not get runs like this with one artist and one writer very often in comics, especially anymore.
Yeah.
So like, this is fantastic because the interior art in this was fucking spot on. I was like blown away by how awesome it looked. And then also the cover art, he does some of them, Tom Mandrake does. But then also we get Glenn Fabry, who's known for Preacher. He did all the covers for Preacher. He also did a bunch of covers for like Lucifer and stuff. And then we get Charles Vess on covers as well on this. So like fantastic artists that just like make fucking awesome covers. So I can't speak enough to how well this book was put together. And then also, this is a 12-issue story arc. I was blown away because normally when they give you like a big book like this, it's 12 issues and the first 6 are a story arc, and then the next 6 are a story arc, and then that's the end of the book. This was every issue kind of gives you a little bit pushing the story forward, but then kind of reveals a little bit more about the Spectre and stuff, and then eventually builds up to 12 issues of an arc that ends very well and has a full burn, like really well, like a good build through the whole thing.
It didn't, even though it was 12 issues, it didn't feel like 12 issues like you normally, I would say, feel like kind of bogged down with if you start reading. Like it didn't feel that long.
Yeah, not at all. And this does have like a single issue feel. Like while there is a storyline going on in the background, I feel like you could pick any of these up just randomly and start reading and be like, oh, I'm like, okay, like something's going on with the serial killer, but also like, oh, the Spectre's on a ghost hunt or whatever, like trying to find some mystery going on for that comic. So I like that a lot. Like they don't write comics like that anymore where you have like, yeah, there's an overarching plot in the background, but we're like doing like kind of horror stories for each issue that is like the separate storyline that kind of reveals a little bit more about the Spectre power and stuff. So
each issue definitely feels like there's like a beginning, middle, and end to like a little side story. So
yes,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, this was really well done. Also, John Ostrander, I don't think he's talked about enough because he wrote this. He wrote the Suicide Squad that like the movie's based on and stuff, and like he was the guy that kind of, I'll call him like this. He's like the super jobber comic book guy. Like he just wrote good comics, but it wasn't like Alan Moore or Neil Gaiman. Like it wasn't poetry or whatever. So no one really taunts him no, touts him. Is what I meant. No one touts him like, oh, he's amazing. But I think he wrote really solid comics for a really long time and wrote like really good series. But like, and people like them, but they're not really collected as often. They're not talked about as much. So, I mean, next time you get a chance, everybody out there, go check out some John Ostrander stuff. He's a really good writer. So, this being one of my favorite things that I've read that he's written. I read his Suicide Squad run, like the first 3 trades of that. Really good stuff too, if you like those characters. And even if you don't, like he does a really good job of building like each one of them. So, I don't know. It's good writer, but like I said, this character is Jim Corrigan. He is a detective from the 30s who is now the Spectre. It is now present day 1992, and we don't know why he's been around so long or whatever. This was a good introduction to this character because they go through his whole origin and everything, just so like because it's a new #1 and a new volume, so they want everybody to catch up basically. Yeah. So we start off with Jim Corrigan going into a hospital, And he's going there to confront a man who's on like his deathbed in the hospital, and his name is Snipe. What's this? Do you know his first?
Lewis Snipe.
Lewis Snipe. And apparently this guy had something to do with Jim Corrigan's death back in the 30s.
Yep.
And so, like we said, Jim was a cop back then. So, and Snipe was like an organized crime guy or whatever. And so he goes to talk to him. And I love this. Like, there's a bed that says Snipe, and then next to him is some other bed, and there's just a curtain between them. And Corrigan goes up there to talk to Snipe, and then the woman that's talking to the person in the bed next to Snipe pulls the curtain so like it gives privacy, but you can hear everything going on behind it. So this woman named Amy Biederman is standing on the other side of the curtain while Jim Corrigan's like, "You son of a bitch, Snipe." like you recognize me, like just scaring this old man to death. And she's just like, "What's going on over there? Like, I can hear everything you're saying." And basically, like, Corrigan goes up to this guy and says, like, "You remember me?" And he's like, "Go away, leave me alone." And he's like, I'm gonna make you remember me. Like, I need to know like what happened, like, you know, how you killed. Like, basically, he wants like revenge for his death or vengeance for his death.
Yeah.
And he wants to know what Snipe knew. Like Snipe was one of the many people that were involved in Jim's death. So he wants to know how involved. Was he the one who set it up? Or was he just like a gunman or whatever? So, because he wants vengeance for everybody that had anything to do with his death. So Snipe is just one of the ones that is like left from that time period.
Yeah, because he's very old, obviously.
Yeah. And so, so as he's like about to scare this old man to death, Amy Biederman turns around and like pulls the curtain aside and is like, "Hey, like, am I interrupting you?
Everything okay over here?"
Yeah. Like, what's going on? He's like, "I'm just leaving." And he just like walks out after like scaring the shit out of this old guy. And I love that. Like, she doesn't think like, "Wow, that guy was a dick." She's actually like, "Oh, excuse me. Like, you said your name was Jim Corrigan? Like, I'm a social worker." Like, and they just kind of talk, and she's just like attracted to him like instantly. Cause you know, he's mysterious.
Ooh.
And he's got like, we should mention, he's got like a lock of hair that's like white running through his hair.
He's kind of got like brownish reddish hair.
Yeah. I think he's like supposed to be a redhead from what I can tell. He's got really, one thing I love is his eyes.
Oh yeah.
Have fucking skulls in them for pupils.
Yeah.
So like, I probably at like opportune times where like he needs to be scary, but like when he's putting the Spectre on you, he's got fucking skull eyes.
It's really cool.
Which are badass, I gotta say. It's fucking awesome. So he like, he's talking to her and he's like, "I have to go, bye." And then like, he appears down like on the street, like really quick.
Really quick.
She's like, "Wow, he must have run down the stairs." And then all of a sudden a drive-by shooting happens. Cause also, okay, this comic is very much set in the early 90s. There are
1990s.
Gangsters, like, but when I say gangsters, I mean like gangs, like
it's like street gangs,
and there's AIDS is a big theme in this. So like the idea of AIDS,
being a scary disease that not everybody quite understands yet. Obviously.
Yes, and this actually does I thought a pretty tactful way of handling it for like a comic. You know, if you're gonna have it in a comic, I feel like they went out of their way to really try to show empathy for the people who might have AIDS or whatever kind of thing. So, and make it not so like stigmatized kind of thing. So, but yeah, so Corrigan standing on the sidewalk while this drive-by happens, and Amy sees it, and like she sees all these people get fucking murdered, and then Jim is just standing there while the bullets pass through him, and she's like, "Oh, I saw him get shot," and then Corrigan's like, "What the fuck?" Like, the Spectre is pissed. And one thing I liked about this is they made Jim Corrigan and the Spectre like separate things.
Yes.
And they have trouble like keeping each other like together. Like whenever they're talking, like if it's the Spectre that's like embodied or whatever, he would be like, "Jim, I mean me, you know, I was doing that," or whatever. And it's like, wait, you mean like, so they are thinking of themselves as separate beings, even though they're kind of the same person supposed to be.
And it's funny because they both have moments where like Jim is like working on something, and especially if it's like he's like trying to solve some kind of like a murder or something, he's trying to figure out details, And then there's just enough information in the Spectre to be like, okay, I know enough. Time to come out for some justice. And Jim's like, no, wait. And it's too bad that the Spectre's taking over.
Yeah, the Spectre is taking over. And that's what happens here. Jim actually says no, because he doesn't want to change into the Spectre in the middle of the street, in the middle of broad daylight.
Yeah.
And then the Spectre's like, yes. He becomes a Spectre. Amy runs back down to the street because she's like worried about Jim. And the Spectre is like following these gangsters. I love how they do this and show like how supernatural he is, because, and we should say the Spectre, when he transforms, he's like an all white body. He's wearing basically a Speedo that's green.
Yeah.
And then like a cape with a hood that's green.
A green cape and hood and like green gloves and shoes, I guess.
Yeah. So it's a very weird costume, I would think.
Yeah.
But
very, very Ghost-esque kind of, but then with a cloak.
Sure. But he's in a Speedo, which is weird. But yeah, whatever. It's for the ladies. He's the power girl of these weird characters.
I guess.
Little something for the ladies with the Spectre. But yeah, so like he appears, and at first you just think, oh, he's like human size or whatever, right? But I like this because they right away tell the new readers, this is the Spectre, this is what he can do. So these gangsters are riding along, and they're like, how many did we get? Oh, that was pretty good. We killed a bunch of people for no fucking reason. Whatever they say, they're just, we don't know why these guys were doing that pretty much. But then all of a sudden, as they're driving, fucking Spectre's face just appears out of the road, and it's like the size of a semi truck.
Yeah.
And then they drive into the Spectre's mouth, and then the Spectre like wraps them in Spectre world, out of like some realm. Yeah, there's like a realm that he can take people to that like show them their fate. And then that's where he like boils people alive. And with these kids, he's like, oh, you think you're cool? You're like drug dealers and shit like that? Well, check this out. And then his fingers become the people, the gangsters. And they're like, what? What's going on? And then he's like, he injects like, I guess heroin or whatever into his arm, but it's like fire. And then it comes up and burns them on his fingers. And they're like yelling, like, no. And he's like, time you learned how it feels or whatever. And like, just to see like how it is for the people that they sell drugs to that die in OD or whatever. Yeah. So like, basically he just murders these people, because we see when the next we see him, they're like just burned on the road.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Like the car's like flipped over, and like you can see like charred bodies.
Yeah, and like the guy's soul is leaving his body. Like, just like, whoa, like that's fucked up. So yeah, that's where we start off. Like, hey guys, this is the Spectre.
This is the Spectre.
Yeah. So that's like the tone of this book, is he is vengeance. And even if you weren't the guy shooting, or maybe you were like an abused kid who grew up in a bad home, well, guess what?
You're with the gang.
You're with the gang. You had a gun in your hand. Guess what? You're burning alive too. So maybe you were just the driver, and like that movie Drive.
Yeah.
And but guess what? You broke the law.
You got to pay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, then we're like Amy is down. We cut back to the hospital where Amy is down on the sidewalk, and we meet one of the other main characters here, who is Nate Kane, or Inspector Nate Kane, or Lieutenant Nate Kane. He's a cop, basically. He's Detective Nate Kane. Yeah. And it seems like they have some kind of history. They know each other, and possibly they were involved in a relationship, like potentially,
yeah,
but not like it never went any farther than they just have feelings for each other. Because I'll spoil it. Fuck it. Turns out Amy has AIDS, and Nate is very like, what about that? Like, so he doesn't understand it, and also he's got like some weird phobia we find out later on about germs and stuff. So he's like really freaked out about any, like, if she touches him, he's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it's weird for him being a police inspector, and then he's like, blood. There's blood everywhere.
But specifically like AIDS blood. That's like the blood he's talking about. Like he never shows like, unless someone has a disease, because he shows like all of his family in the past died around him from diseases, like even just the influenza and stuff.
That's right.
So like, and like other kind of diseases like that. So it's specifically illnesses that, and he doesn't understand at this time. No one understands AIDS really. And it's just kind of like in the zeitgeist of like, it's bad, it's contagious, it's a death sentence at this time. Yeah. So, it's understandable that people could be like, what the fuck? But also it's horrible because the people that are having this disease are being shunned and stigmatized and stuff. So I get both sides, and I kind of like that they show both sides because they don't make it seem like Nate's a terrible person. He just doesn't understand it, and he's got his own hangups. So you kind of empathize with that as well. But anyway, so that isn't like we're not supposed to know yet that Amy has AIDS, but that's like the underlying thing with their relationship. And then we cut to someone we haven't seen before. This guy's getting off work. His name is Danny Geller. And apparently, he's great at work. There's people that are like, "You're going to get a raise, buddy, because the boss said you're doing a great job." And Danny just seems like a normal guy. But he's got a date tonight, and he buys some flowers, goes to the door of the apartment of the woman he's dating. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I'm late," or whatever. And she's like, I guess it's like the first time they're meeting because she's like, "Oh, are you like disappointed because he's acting weird towards her?" And he's like, "Oh, no, it's fine. And then as she goes to put the flowers in a vase with water, he fucking pulls out a knife and murders her. Like, he's a serial killer, basically. Yeah. And we don't know why. He just does it.
The panel is really cool, too, because it's got the reflection of her scared face in the knife while he's, like, running at her.
Yeah, it's a really good panel. Yeah. I think it's perfect for comic books. And then we cut back to the hospital. Now it's nighttime. And everybody's like, all the commotions stopped in the front, even though that would probably be a pretty big crime scene right there because like at least 8 people died.
People were just
But either way, he's there, and or Jim Corrigan's in front of the hospital, and he's going to visit Snipe now at night when no one else is there to bother them. So he shows up, and the one thing that's cool about the Spectre's powers is he can just go into your soul and find out whatever he needs. But also, it's your soul, so like you can fight back a little bit. But it doesn't seem like anybody really gets the upper hand in any of the realms against the Spectre.
No, not really. There
might be like a little bit of, oh shit, you're more powerful than I thought in your own soul or whatever. But guess what? I'm the fucking Spectre. You're dead or whatever, So yeah, he is trying to find out exactly what he needs to find out about his death. And it turns out, so we get like in Snipe's soul, we see it is the 30s again. It's on the docks where Jim Corrigan died. He's standing there walking, and all of a sudden Snipe jumps down and hits him in the head with a pipe, and then holds a gun on him. And then he was one of the guys. There's like 4 guys surrounding Jim Corrigan as they fill a barrel, like a 55-gallon drum, with cement and put him in it. And then they put the top on and push him in the water.
Sleep with the fishes, kinda.
Yeah, exactly. And like, there's more than one guy. Like I said, it's Snipe and like a bunch of other guys. And I can't remember who the main guy is. They say him later on, but like I don't remember off the top of my head. So, but yeah, this is for like a crime boss that they worked for, and this is like Italian mafia stuff, not like gangs from like not like Crips and Bloods.
No, this is see, like they very much talk like that.
Yeah, they really do. They get into this later on where like Jim's like, "Hey Toots, why don't you go get me a martini or whatever?" And it's like, wow, he's kind of
you really talk like that.
Yeah. So like then we see them fill the barrel with cement all the way after they put Jim in there, seal it shut, throw him in the harbor, and then the Spectre gets fucking mad. And they have like a big fight, like I said, where Snipe is like, "You're in my soul," and Spectre's like, "Oh shit," and then he's like, "Wait a second, I'm the Spectre, fuck you." And so they have like this big fight, and the Spectre ends up winning, and it's kind of like he finds out exactly like, okay, you were definitely one of the like main guys that killed me. He dies, I guess when he defeats him in this, the guy dies because like when he pulls out of him, his fucking face is like blank and his eyes are open. So I'm assuming Snipe died while he was struggling. His soul was struggling.
Probably. I mean, he was really old, so
Yeah, for sure. But then he's like, Corrigan is freaked out because he's like, well, I thought if I figured this out and like solved the mystery of my death, then, I'd be free or whatever of being the Spectre. But that's not what happens. So that's kind of like his overarching plot in this is, why am I the Spectre? Am I here just to like be vengeance and be angry and, kill people for judgment or whatever? Or am I like supposed to be free and let my soul go and then go to heaven? Because that's what he wants to do. And he was a cop or whatever. They definitely dabble in like the who goes to heaven, who goes to hell. What are the rules for that in this? They definitely fall on the more Catholic side, I would say, where they talk about like, oh, you can't go to heaven if you kill yourself. they say stuff like that, and that's that's more Catholic than Protestant on that. So, but either way, we start off the second issue, and the second issue was kind of cool. It's mainly like a ghost story where like Spectre's trying to solve a murder that he finds out about inside of like a beach house that happens. And we'll kind of skip through this one because it's not the most important. But basically, there's like a ghost in this house that's like playing through the murder over and over again. It's kind of like the precogs in Minority Report where they see these murders happening over and over again. It's like that, but this ghost is like reliving it every night or whatever. So the Spectre's like, well, I must find out who killed you. And then he goes on like a hunt, like to try to track down the person who was, I guess, he finds out who she is, and then finds out who was
there's someone already arrested.
Yeah, there's someone who's guilty for her murder.
Yeah, and it's her husband. So he's gonna go to the jail and like I guess seek retribution.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna fuck this guy up, basically, and that will make her ghost go to sleep or whatever. So he goes to talk to this guy, and he like this guy's in jail. So he's already on death row or whatever for murdering his wife. Then the Spectre comes and like puts him in an electric chair, electrifies him for him to like confess. The guy's like, I am innocent. No, I promise. And he's like having fucking demons come out and like grab him and take him to hell and all this stuff. And he's like, I swear I didn't kill her. And he's like, all right, I believe you, Michael. And he's like, well, see ya. Have a good night.
Yeah, it was really like he basically didn't get anything out of him. And he's like, oh, okay, well,
he got that. Oh, I believe you. You didn't kill your wife.
But I mean, like, yeah, because like he saw the stuff in like Snipe, but then he like talks with him and like tries to pull stuff out of him, and he doesn't see anything. So he's like, "Oh, I believe you. I guess you didn't do anything."
Yeah, but he already like electrocuted him in an electric chair and sent him to hell, or at least brought hell visions to him in this, in this Spectre realm or whatever. And so Michael, having the Spectre's like, sleep tight, and then like vanishes.
Try to forget everything that.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My bad. And so Michael takes his bedsheet and hangs himself in his cell because the Spectre did all that shit. So we find that out, and then the Spectre keeps like trying to track down more and more people. They go to like some other guy that supposedly his wife knew or was cheating on his husband with.
I think so. I think she's like the boss from the company that her husband worked for.
Something like that. There's a couple of people that are going on. And I like this. When he goes into that guy's face, that guy is like a business guy. He's like a mogul, like a real estate mogul or something. Yeah. So when Spectre goes into his soul, this dude is like Conan the Barbarian in his head. He's like got all these ladies like hanging on his legs, and they're all scantily clad, and he's got like a horned helmet and like a battle axe, and he's like, you're in my realm. You think you can take me on? And once again, the Spectre doesn't have any of that. And I love this. The Spectre's like, hey, why don't you look at yourself again? And then it shows the guy and he's digging through shit in a toilet. Like literally, his hands are elbow deep in a shitty toilet. And then all the ladies that were like hot and scantily clad around him are now like big fat like blobs of ladies or whatever.
Yeah, like ladies shaped. They're not even really.
Yeah, they're all old and like they look like witches or something. It's creepy. But yeah, I just love how and he's got a hat that says loser on it and stuff. It's just really, really good art for this. And basically just makes this guy like, shows him how little and small he is. And we find out this guy is not guilty of it either. So, and doesn't this guy like kill himself too or something? Or no, he's just horribly scarred from that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, he's just horribly traumatized. Then the only other person it could be, we find out like Jim goes to talk to, or he goes to the grave of the woman just to like talk it out or whatever, and he finds the woman's sister,
the
ghost twin sister there, and he goes into her soul and turns out she's the fucking one who killed her. And I love the way they show this. Like basically the sister's like we were arguing, it wasn't supposed to happen like that, and I accidentally killed her, and I'm so sorry, and like that's what happened. And then in her soul, she like turns around, and the soul version of her has her twin like grafted to her back, and it's all rotting and shit. It's so fucking cool. It's like, I don't know like where like they got the art ideas for this. I mean, Tom Mandrake, I don't know if John Ostrander wrote that in the comic or if Tom Mandrake was just like, yeah, I'm fucking awesome. Check this out. But this is like
It's-
some of the best
yeah.
art I've seen like in a comic for a long time. Like especially in 1992, like this is killing it. Like even at that time, you have like the Image guys killing it. This is some really good stuff. Like I was just blown away. But yeah, so he I guess makes her feel super guilty and then like says he's gonna punish her and then scares her off the ledge of the cliff that the cemetery's on. So she kills herself, but because he scared her. he becomes like a demon. All like his face gets all demonized and he gets like gigantic and like chases her off of a cliff. So that's nice. And then he goes back to the house and the ghost is still doing its thing. So he's like, huh, I thought that would have put her to rest, but I guess not. That's weird.
Oh, well, that's weird.
Yeah, that's odd. That's an odd thing. And then at the end of this issue, we get another girl who's been murdered. So there's this serial killer is murdering people or murdering women, and we don't know why. And then in the third issue starts, we get Amy Biederman again, and she's hanging around the cops in the police station. She's been trying to find Jim Corrigan this whole time. She actually went to like Madame Xanadu to try to find out who he is. Or I guess she went to Jim Corrigan's office because she found out that he's a private eye. And like the way that Jim Corrigan has like had his history as the Spectre, he just says like, oh, my dad was also named Jim Corrigan and he died back in the past and I'm his son who has a private eye business or whatever. So that's how he gets around like, hey, wait, aren't you the same Jim Corrigan that was from the 30s or whatever? She's been going around asking about him. She went to his private eye place of business or whatever, and Madame Xanadu was there. And Madame Xanadu, if you don't know, is one of these like mystical characters in the DC universe. She's kind of got some magic. She can kind of go into the spirit realms and stuff and find out things.
She got some very unique followers. We'll get into it in a bit.
The only reason I mentioned her is because later on she comes up and it's like, what? But okay, sure, why not? I do like the way they draw her. She's very busty.
Of course. Yeah. I was like, I know where Matt's going.
It was great. I love it. So anyway, Amy is at the police station, and it turns out that they actually found on the docks, they actually found a barrel full of cement, and it happens to be this old murder that no one really knows who this guy is that they found in the cement, and they've, I guess, taken the mold from the cement that was there, like where the body was, that has decayed and now left like a hollow part of the inside of the cement. Yeah. So it's like a mold. So they made a mold of that mold and then, or of that void, and they have it just sitting under a tarp in the police station because like, we got to find this guy. We don't know who this is, and this is some old murder. And obviously it's Jim Corrigan, but no one knows that. And so Amy pulls off the tarp. She just happens to be in the room with this thing, and they leave her there. And she pulls it off. She's like, "Oh my God, is that Jim?" She automatically recognizes that as Jim Corrigan, but no one else really knows that. So we get some more of the serial killer in this one. It's very, very creepy. His eyes are like red. Now there was a thing in this. Later on, they talk about a demon that possesses people that is a serial killer. Is he possessed by a demon now, or is this just him?
I mean, they made it seem like I think he's collecting bodies for him. So I feel like maybe
I thought that was later on. I thought after. Okay, we'll get into it later, but for sure, it seemed like right now he's himself to me.
They didn't allude to that until later. So
until later.
Maybe we just weren't supposed to know that yet. Okay, maybe it is part.
But his eyes are fucking red, which is creepy as hell. So as like the women are like talking to him and stuff, and he's like at his job. He's like, "Hey, babe, blah, blah, blah." And then, like, the woman leaves, and he's, like, looking at her. He's got this creepy-ass smile and red dots for eyes. It's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Amy is now tracking down Jim Corrigan, and we, like, she learns about, like, his past and whatnot. And they're talking on the docks where he's like, "This is where it all happened," or whatever. And then... Of course,
Street Gang.
Yeah, Street Gang comes out and they're like, "Give us your money." Yeah.
Take out their little switch lights. Yeah, exactly. And there's like a dozen guys maybe?
Dozen guys. And that's pretty good odds for them, but they don't know he's the Spectre. Yeah. His eye gets a skull in it, and all of a sudden their fucking hands explode. Like the ones that were holding knives, just boom, 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 boom. And then So Amy's like, you're the Spectre, so you're supernatural because she knows that he's dead. So obviously she figured that out. And as he's like exploding these gangsters, these kids, because they're kids, obviously. Yeah. She's like, stop it, don't kill them. He's like, but they're evil. She's like, yeah, but I mean, you know, what about like second chances or just like regular jail time or something, you know? Not everybody needs to have maimings happen to them just because, or like, you know, just murdered, you know, burned to death or head exploded just because, you know, they made a bad choice or whatever. So he's like, it's not murder, it is judgments. Like, he's just so like white and black, which I like a lot in this. And she kind of makes her plea. Her plea. There you go. That's the word. She makes her plea to him, and he has like a flashback of someone he knew, but we don't really know who they are. Another woman who says like, "Please, Jim," and he's like, "Oh, okay, fine. I won't murder them, but
what turn them into the vermin they are."
Yeah, and he turns them into rats, which I would say is possibly worse.
Yeah,
than murder. Just taking off their hand or something. He makes them all rats, so that's fun. He's squeaking them away. And then she's like, how are you so horrible? And he's like, well, let me show you my life or whatever. So we find out that his dad was like a fire and brimstone pastor, and he just like sat in the pews all terrified while listening to his dad, like dreaming about hellfire and
like you do, you know,
and shit. Yeah. If anyone's ever raised in a super religious home, I could see that happening.
Let me tell you this very vivid story about Thomas the Tank Engine climbing the little train that could. Oh, also, now that we finished with that, let's do our Bible studies and stories and fire and brimstone rain down upon you if you do not.
And God murdered all the firstborns of the Egyptians. Yeah, so she's getting like, this is like a Ghost of Christmas Past or some shit where like he's taking her on like trips through his memory lane of like what his life was like. So we see that his dad beat the fuck out of him like with a belt, and then we get a little bit of his life and his career as a policeman and how he's like busting these crime groups with his partner, and they're doing a good job, and they were like not on the take, and that was the problem is he was like Serpico or some shit. He was not taking money.
Yeah, that's one of the things because there's a scene where he goes into one of the bars I think that they own. And then, like, when they bust into the back room to break up, you know, whatever illegal games going on, they're like, who forgot to pay the cops this week or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously the cops are dirty or whatever, but not Jim Corrigan or his partner. His partner, I thought they were going to say his partner was in on it, but like as a twist, but that never happened. So that was kind of nice, actually. Like, it was refreshing. Oh, your partner is actually a good guy, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they show, so like, he does a bust. Then that's the night that the gangs were like, we got to get rid of this Corrigan fella. He's not taking our money.
Yeah.
And then, so Jim goes to meet, or to go to a party. He meets the girl of, you know, who is actually the one that he kind of had a vision of earlier when Amy was like protesting against murdering those children. And then, so that's where like he met this woman who is going to end up being his wife or whatever. And then this is actually the part where you were saying where he finds an illegal gambling ring at this party, and they're like, who? Like, he's like, freeze, and then they're like, who didn't pay off the cops? And it turns out, okay, Jim's another guy that, you know, he's good. He's never taken money at all. But I thought this was funny. Like, they just start murdering people. Like, the cops just mow these people down, and they're like, not all these people are like criminals. It's just the ones that are like running the table.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
So there's like, I mean, they're criminals, I guess, technically, the people gambling, but those people are just civilians.
If we've learned everything from all of the cop things we've seen from the 1940s, 50s, 60s to today,
yeah,
a lot of times they just kind of shoot first.
Sure, right. So anyway, but they like highlight it though that like it's fucked up because they have him calling that woman that, you know, he met. That's going to end up being his wife or whatever. And there's like blood on the background wall. Like, he's like, no time like the present to call that girl. I'm like, don't you want to like decompress or get a drink or something? He's like, no, I got a gal that, you know, said to call her and I don't want to lose her or whatever. So he goes on a walk with her and like later on, and he asks her to marry him, but doesn't she like, he says like I'll never like do anything to you, or like, what does he say? She said, he says something like look, lady, there's going to be one boss in our family, and that's me. Like, he says something super chauvinistic like that.
Well, that's because he felt like, so he didn't get the biggest ring, and she's like, it's okay, my family's got lots of money. He's like, I don't want no handouts.
Yeah, but still, like, you know, it's not nice to be like, it's my way or the highway. You know?
I don't know. It's like he didn't smack her on the behind and say, you know, okay, we're on the same. You understand now, right, Toots? So
yeah. But then she says, like, you're an arrogant tyrant and a bully, and you're a conceited fool and a pig-headed mule. And then he's like, well, are you gonna marry me or not? And she's like, yes. So you gotta love that. That you know, it's the 40s. So
as long as you love me, sugar.
Yeah. Hey, Toots. Yeah. So then, like, you know, we find out that Snipe, the guy that he killed in issue 1, is actually one of the guys that set him up. He was like an informant. And I gotta say, Jim Corrigan, kind of a dick to Snipe, and I understand why Snipe did it. Because Snipe's like, oh, just so you know, Jim, like, this is what's going down tonight. And he was not necessarily setting him up. I think he was just giving him information at first. And then Corrigan's like, oh yeah, and he like pushes him in the mud or whatever in the alley. And it's like, you better be telling me everything. And he's like, oh, I'm telling you everything. And I think after that is when he was like,
he's like, oh yeah, well yeah. You're gonna get what's coming to you.
Exactly. I think that's what the issue was, that he's kind of a dick in that situation. Yeah, and then we like relive the scene where Snipe hits him on the head with a pipe. We find out everybody that was behind it, including Benson, I guess his name. Gat Benson is the head of this crime organization or whatever.
Man.
And that was the guy who's like, yeah, it is me. Ha ha. Face to face finally. And that's where you're going to sleep with the fishes. And so, yeah, they lock him in the cement. We relive this again. You kind of see how horrible it was with, like, through Amy's perspective. And then we start the next issue as he bursts out, like his ghost bursts out of the barrel with Amy and the Spectre and all that. So, yeah, I don't know, I liked this kind of retelling of the Spectre and how he came and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it just seems like he's so angry at everything that's going on. And this is where you get like the mix of like, well, shouldn't you just let this go, Jim? Like Amy's like kind of like, why are you living with, it's been the fucking 70 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Let this shit go to heaven. And the Spectre's like, no. Like,
no, they will, every single one of them will pay.
Everyone will pay. They all have to pay. And we even see like what happened with his girlfriend or wife, or I guess his fiance. So after he died, then they got his wife, and I guess he came back. Like, I don't know what the time frame is on this.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, they're obviously the gangsters. It's probably soon after, I would think.
Yeah, like the day after or something. Because so Gat Benson has kidnapped his fiance. I don't know why. I don't know why they're like, whatever. I mean, they're bad guys, so maybe they're just killing Jim and everything he loved. Or
he
whatever.
loved, yeah.
And so Jim appears now that he's the Spectre, and they're like, "What? How'd you get out of that cement barrel?" And you know, he's like, you know, he's just like badass Spectre now, so he's not really saying one-liners or anything anymore. And they start shooting at him, and the bullets are just going through him and hitting the guys that are behind him, like the other gangsters. And they're like, "What? How's he dodging these bullets so well?" Like, I know, I'll get you. And then they come up with an idea like, well, if we shoot from these angles, we won't hit each other at least, so that's good. But the problem is that while he's busy distracting, Amy's like, stop it. Like, just let go of it and save your fucking fiance. And if you did that, it would be fine. But he's not doing that. He's trying to attack the guys and get vengeance. So then his fiance gets murdered by some of the bullets that are flying around. And Amy's trying to save her, but it doesn't work. And when the Spectre or Jim Corrigan sees his fiance like dying, he fucking flips out, and he totally makes this guy melt. Gat Benson, he melts him like the guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, very much so.
Straight up face melt. Everything melts in the suits, just goop on the ground at the end. It's pretty hardcore, I should say. But then the interesting thing is he goes to his fiance and he's like, oh my God, her name's Clarice. He's like, Clarice. And he goes to her and like she's shot like through the chest. She's completely dead. She's just hanging on the wall. And he like possesses her or goes inside of her soul or whatever. And she's not there initially, but then he follows her soul as she's going to heaven.
Yeah, she's going to a beautiful life.
She's like, oh, it's so beautiful. And he's like, come back, Clarice. She's like, but it's so pretty. He's like, no, come on, you come back. And then we find out, like, Amy's seeing this because this is all the past. So basically, he brings her soul back, Clarice's soul back, and brings her back to life. I don't know how she, like, continues to live, even though her soul's in her. I guess her body heals, maybe, or maybe he heals her or something. I don't know. But it's super fucked up. He like robbed her from heaven, and Amy's very like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because like she's finding out about this hero named the Spectre, who's not a nice guy, and like took someone from heaven and brought her back.
I don't think he's even full because he says we need to get you to a hospital.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd still say that if someone got shot and he brought him back to life, right?
True,
I don't know. She's not dead though. Like even though she was shot, so
maybe he just wants to get the bullets out.
Yeah, I don't know, but basically, like that's like him showing her his past, and it was supposed to be him being like, "You don't understand me. This is where I came from," and she's just like, "You're fucked up." Like that's fucked up. That's not making me empathize with you. That's making me like think you're a horrible, horrible entity or whatever. You know, you're not a human. You're not like able to like empathize with people at all or like figure out what's going on. And then doesn't he say like, oh, she just kind of like ended up leaving and like, what did they say? She says Clarice married several times and she died a few years ago. Like, so you brought her back from heaven for no fucking reason.
Yep.
Okay. And then that was the other thing. Amy's like, well, did she go back to heaven? He's like, I don't know. I assume so. Like maybe she did something bad in between and didn't go to heaven after that.
Never really rechecked on her. They couldn't be together, and he's like, I have to be vengeance. So, but I didn't want you to die. So
peace.
Yeah, you live your life now.
Yeah, you had some terrible relationships, some bad marriages, but now you're in heaven or hell. I don't know. I wasn't.
I don't know.
That's one of my favorite lines from Dumb and Dumber when he's like, that girl's leaving me. She was always saying I don't listen to her enough or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. Just, totally fucked up. But yeah.
He has several little parts like that in here that make you be like that. Like you're like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's definitely got some issues, so, and one of those issues, because Amy pisses him off. And so he's like, you know what? Let's see what your heart is like or whatever. So he goes into Amy's soul. And that's where he finds out about her life, where she was kind of raised to believe in like, oh, there will be a prince for me.
Yeah.
And I have some friends like this whose parents raised them very sheltered and like, you live with us and then you go to school in order to meet a man.
A Prince Charming.
And then you will then be his princess and do what he says and like,
and live happily ever after.
Yeah, I'm glad they got out of that cycle, but it's super fucked up. This felt very fucked up reading it like, oh, that shit happens,
Yeah.
So, but basically she's raised to be this, good princess or whatever. Then her mother, the dad dies, I guess. The mother kind of sleeps around, we'll say, with a lot of men and kind of fucks her up like that. And then when Amy grows up, she meets her Prince Charming finally. And it turns out he was a cheated on her a bunch. And then he got AIDS, like in his cheating or whatever, and gave it to her. And then she didn't know that. So as she's going around after they broke up, and she's sleeping with people, like dating and stuff, and super fucking creepy way to show this, just all the different men that she slept with, they're all turning into corpses in front of her, like as like we see them. Like the way they're showing this is kind of like a fairy tale. So like she is actually dressed like a princess. There is a Prince Charming in a castle, and then like the Prince Charming when she finds out that he had AIDS, like he turns into a skeleton and then like melts, and then like all the men that she slept with, like she's like I'm like death because now I've given all these men AIDS or whatever and they didn't know it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's the big revelation of this issue, is where we find out, well, one, Spectre is kind of a dick from his past, and then two, that she has AIDS and she's having to deal with that now. And so also we get the Spectre, like this was one of those like morality things in this book that I thought was cool and interesting to throw in there. So you like, I guess morally, if you're going biblically or whatever, like she's doing sinful things by sleeping around. And so like, if you go by what the Spectre's supposed to kind of be like, he's supposed to be like God's judgment or whatever, or at least that's what he thinks.
Yeah.
And so in his mind, all of a sudden he gets a flash of his dad being like, she's a whore or whatever. And like, she's unclean and she's a sinner or whatever. So you should punish her. And then the Spectre actually like goes to bat for her. And he's like, no, father, like I will not, like she hasn't done anything actually evil. She's just,
she's a victim of circumstances.
Yeah.
And she didn't know that this was going to turn out that way. You know, I don't forgive you for the things you did, but then
he proceeds to beat the shit out of his dad with a belt, which I enjoyed. He's like, I do not forgive. Like, and he's just beating the shit out of his dad with a belt. So, it was fun, happy issue. You find out the girl has AIDS and he had like a weird fucked up life in the 30s and then beats his dad with a belt at the end inside of his mind.
It was interesting. And
it was a happy romp.
Happy, but excuse me, happy, but also, like he goes inside of her. I mean, he assaults her. He goes inside. Well, it's,
I don't know if you'd say that.
That's what she know because that's what he says. He even says, "I'm sorry" afterwards because she makes him like self-introspect.
I thought it was like I'm sorry I made you relive all that stuff, not like I'm sorry I went inside your soul or whatever. But
I mean, either way, he definitely like
he soul rapes her. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know. I'm not going to say that, but
he soul assaults her.
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, so anyway, he does that, and then she makes him self-introspect, and then that makes him like go through all his past drama, kind of. Which I mean, she said she's a social worker, so maybe that's a little bit of a tie in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So he comes out of it, and I guess that's that finally like the first time that he and the Spectre like have like a moment of like, oh, like there has to be some kind of middle ground, I feel, and they have to like struggle with that for like at least the rest of this run.
Yeah. So this next issue starts, and this was kind of like a issue we can glance over. It's just kind of showing how badass the Spectre is again, fighting other realms and stuff. But basically, there's a kid that's been kidnapped. He's being held for ransom. The people that have kidnapped him have buried him in a graveyard in like I guess a grave. I don't know, like in a what's it called, a coffin.
Coffin, yeah.
And it has a pipe that is barely sticking out of the ground for air, so it's keeping him alive. And they're supposed to like once they get the money, tell the cops where he's buried. But it's raining, so that pipe is filling up with water, and that water is leaking into where the kid is. So he's gonna die sooner than the people think. So the police are trying to find him, and then it turns out that the kidnappers who are like, we're going to pick up the money, they ran a stop sign or something, and they're getting chased by the cops, and the cops don't really know who it is or who they are or whatever. They just are running from the cops. And so they make a sharp turn, they get in a car accident, and they all die. And so no one knows where that kid is, and then the police find out that these were the kidnappers, and there's no way to find them. So when Amy hears about this, she's like, I know a guy who can go into dead people and bring them back to life or whatever, So she calls Jim. He checks out where this guy is. Turns out he's in hell. So he has to go down to hell, which this felt like very John Constantine or like Sandman style to me.
Very much so.
Yeah. And so he goes down there and he finds like a demon torturing. The demon's name is Shathan, or it almost sounds like Satan to me, but it's Shathan.
Yeah.
Shathan. It's Nathan, but with an SH.
Nathan with, in hell, yeah, everybody gets
My name's not Nathan, it's Shathan, all right? So, yeah, Shathan is torturing this kidnapper, and Spectre has to, like, lay the smackdown. And, of course, kind of like in People's Souls, this demon is like, this is my realm, Spectre. You can't do shit. And the Spectre's like, bitch, I'm a Spectre, and, like, lays the smackdown on him. And beats him up pretty bad in front of all of hell, and like later on they show like the other demons like na 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 na, you got beat by Spectre, like he lost all cred in hell because of this. But also the big thing that comes from this is that once he defeats this guy, this demon Shathan sends like I guess another demon that is or like a piece of himself, which is named Asmodeus. And that demon starts possessing other people to be like a copycat serial killer that's just killing people at random in order to power him so he can rise again.
I guess rise again and like I guess come to the real world,
or just I don't even know if it's that or just take over hell again or like be like a big dog in hell because he lost all respect. So he's like, once my power's back, you all be sorry. So it's not like he's trying to get out of hell necessarily, but yeah, like that's kind of the main thing. But they end up saving the boy, and
I love that he pulls him out of hell. He gets back up and he's like, okay, where is he? And the guy's like, oh, he's over here. And he like tells everybody like where the body is. And he's like, okay, I don't need you anymore. And he just throws him back to hell.
Chadas. Yeah. He just throws the guy out, which was funny. Of course, that's what he's going to do because what else would he do? And then the next issue, like a lot of these, like we said, are kind of like their own little stories. And then they have a little bit of peppered bigger storyline in it. So this is another one of those where we start off with these they feel like business people, like, I don't know, Wall Street guys will say, that are just burning homeless people for funsies. I don't know. It's pretty fucked up. It was
messed up.
And the Spectre also thinks it's fucked up, but he's like, guess what, fuckers? And he like murders them because they're terrible. And, you know, he burns them alive, which is good, I guess. So like he's murdering them. And just good times all around. They all end up dying. And then we cut to Amy, who is... This is one of John's favorite scenes in this comic.
It was my favorite because of the like. This is one of those lines that the Spectre has. So she's kind of.
She just got out of the shower.
That's not why.
That's why John likes it.
No, she's not feeling the best with everything that's been going on or whatever.
Well, and because she has HIV, so she's like not feeling good because of that, and it's taken a lot out of her. All this like journey through the past with the Spectre. So she's been at home for the last couple of weeks or whatever. She has just taken a shower. She's wrapped in a towel that is covering strategic places, we'll say.
Yes.
And she's talking to the investigator, Nate Kane, on the phone. And you could tell, like, there's something between them, but once again, like, they never really kind of state exactly what it is. But then Corrigan shows up in her apartment.
And this is just the best because he just shows up and she's like, oh my God, do you ever use the door? And he says, no, I'm dead. I'm a ghost. Like, you know, why would I?
Yeah.
And she just like lambasts him for a minute and, you know, tell him like, you need to, you know.
Because like literally her towel is falling off of her. So she's like, oh my God.
And his response to all that is like, you're upset. I'll go.
You know what? I'll come back later when you're not all freaked out. But yeah, then we see like them, like she's like, oh, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah, like, just get dressed.
I'll come out. So she gets dressed, and then they have kind of like a touching moment where I liked this a lot, actually. So because she has AIDS, not a lot of people are willing to like touch her like physically at all, like even just like a hug or any kind of like human touch at all. So like she is like, oh, well, you don't care about AIDS, you're dead or whatever. So like, will you hug me or whatever? And they just have like this moment where he hugs her, and there's definitely like some feelings there, I'm sure, but also just that like human connection of, okay, someone is treating me normal and not like a freak because of this thing I have or whatever. You know?
She even says like, you know, it's been you obviously haven't had things for a long time, and I haven't like, I love to be held. Do you? And he was like, yeah, like so. They embrace in that. I think that
I like being held. You like being held, holding me. So
like, let's do this. Yeah.
So and then in the background we get like some Madame Xanadu planning some shit. I don't know exactly what it is. When she read Amy's future earlier, I think we forgot to mention that, but she did read Amy's future when Amy saw her the first time, and it said like doom, like you're going to be murdered.
Someone is going to murder you.
Yeah, and so we don't know why, but like that's what's going on. And then Madame Xanadu is like, I want power. Like specifically, like Spectre has a lot of power, and he ain't doing shit with it. And that's like one of the issues later on. Is like her being like, if I had your power, I would just heal Amy, and I would heal AIDS completely, and I would fix all this shit. And then then we find out later. Well, we'll get into that when it gets there. But like, yeah, it's just like a cool idea. So she actually has like these group of guys that she's gonna send to try to like attack the Spectre. So
her children.
Yeah, and then she can weaken the Spectre and like. Get his power or whatever. And then another thing that happens in this issue is there's more gang fights, a lot of gun violence. And in this gang fight, Spectre just takes all these bullets that are being fired and like takes them out of the air and then like rains them down into the car. Like basically all the bullets' energies goes down in the car of the guys that were running away, the gang members, and just just Swiss cheeses them with the bullets. So super fucked up. And then there's like another scene where like on a basketball court, some kids are fighting and some kid pulls out a gun, and then the Spectre turns it into like blood pouring out of it, and then he turns it into like a snake or whatever. It's just like weird shit that he can do. So it's pretty interesting. We'll say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like you get to see more of his powers. And then we also see a little bit of the story progression with the serial killer. So the serial killer is trying to find someone specific. We don't know why or who, but he's looking through medical records in the hospital of specific people. We're not sure why, but in the process of that, he finds a cop, a security guard finds him snooping, and then he kills that
Hey,
cop.
what are you doing here?
Yeah, but he finds a list of a certain type of person, and we're not sure exactly what it is. We'll just spoil it. It's people with AIDS. He is specifically trying to find women with AIDS because they're dirty or something. Like that's basically
that's what we know of it so far.
Yeah. And then this is the next issue is the issue where Madame Xanadu sends her children after Spectre to get his power. And basically, like I said, she says, you're not doing anything with this power. He could cure you, Amy. He is the fucking Spectre. Like, why isn't he doing any of that? And basically we find out that the Spectre is like a separate entity that all it cares about is vengeance. And we kind of already saw that a little bit, but it is like when she takes the Spectre's power from him, and the Corrigan's like, I can go to heaven now. Like his soul is released from the Spectre for a while. And Madame Xanadu now is like imbibed with Spectre power, so she gets the costume and everything.
I was just gonna say the art in this issue is one of my favorites too, because all of her children take on these different mystical forms of like beasts and bugs and just all these weird creatures, and it's always like the crazy creature, and then that person's head just like kind of like it made me think of like The Thing. Or
it's like body horror stuff.
Yeah, or Nightmare on Elm Street when it's like the dogs with Freddy's head.
Right. Yeah,
just things like that. I just really enjoy that kind of horror element.
Yeah, and so Madame Xanadu takes this power, thinking she's gonna like make the world great again. You know, like fix pollution, fix global warming, fix all that shit or whatever, because she has the power now. But immediately when she gets the power, she's just like, vengeance, like I must avenge stuff or whatever. And so she finds out, oh shit, like this isn't something that Jim's doing. This is like the Spectre itself makes you stop thinking about other things that are more important, and it's just like, I want to avenge things.
He said it like 3 times while they were like hunting him down and fighting, and he's like, that's not how my power works.
Yeah, but she didn't listen until now she knows. And so she actually does find some guy that is he a rapist or something?
I believe so.
Oh, no, he's a
pimp.
He's a pimp that is like hitting his prostitutes, and she's just like drawn to this guy for like, because he's nearby and he's the closest like asshole that needs judgment. And so she goes to him, she ties him down to the bed, she cuts off his dick.
Yes.
She cuts his dick off.
She's like, you don't need this.
Yeah, and then like, that's the justice or whatever. Like she's like, have fun with that, asshole. And then she like makes another guy like his car totally break apart. He's just I don't know what he is. He's just a businessman, I guess. He's a CEO. And she's like, you are someone bad who's like polluting or whatever. Yeah. He's a dick to his secretary on the phone, basically. And then she's like, oh, bimbo, huh? And then she boils him alive in acid or whatever.
Or grease.
Or grease, whatever. Something terrible. And like, yeah, he's just burned alive. And that's where she leaves him. Like, no, this wasn't like a vision. This actually happened, like totally murdered. So like then Jim comes to her and she's like, or he's like, oh, I want to, like, you have to give it back to me because like you're going crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can handle this more because I've been it longer or whatever. And so she's like, but if you take it on, you're not going to be able to go to heaven or whatever. And they give him the option, like you could release right now and just go to heaven. And he's like, no, I will be Spectre and I still have a vengeance to do. Like he gets angry thinking about the people that he still has to kill.
Yeah,
that killed him.
And she's like, okay, well, damn, it really seems like there's just always going to be evil anyway. So like, I'm not going to be able to control this. So let's just give it back. You know what? You can have this back.
Yeah, totally. And then the next issue starts with that, like we said, that demon that Spectre beat in hell, he is now getting like lampooned by all the other demons. They're like, ha ha, you got beat by Spectre. You're so weak and everything. But it turns out he sent his little demon Asmodeus to Earth to like kill people to give him power, like to rebuild his power. So he sends another serial killer, or like this demon is possessing other people and they're becoming serial killers as well. So this is going on while the AIDS killer is going around killing women. So the police are like, what the fuck? Like,
what is going on?
We don't understand exactly what's happening, but there's this other serial killer. And then, another thing happens with Amy where she's like, maybe I should just kill myself because like I've been told by Madame Xanadu, like, you are for sure going to die. There is no way you're getting out of this. Even with the Spectre's help and knowing that you're going to die, there's no way to beat it. So she's like, well, why don't I die on my own terms? And she was going to take, I don't know if you could do this. I don't think AIDS medication will, like, you can overdose on it, I'm assuming. But
no, but they imply like, oh, she's going to try to OD on medication.
Yeah, but they say she's going to OD on her AIDS medication specifically. I'm like, I don't know if that's possible. So whatever, I don't know. But the Spectre like stops her. He's like, what are you doing? You can't do that, or you will go to hell. So that's where we get like kind of like the Catholic religious part of this or whatever, where it's like, oh, that's okay. That's a specific religion to throw in here. So, but yeah, he shows her hell to like scare her straight or whatever, to make her be like, you don't want to go there, right? So he shows her hell, and then this was super fucked up. So Nate shows up and he's like, I'm going to protect you from this guy. And he gets like mad at her and he grabs her because she's like, or he's like, where's Corrigan? I need to talk to him, because he's realizing that Corrigan's supernatural as well and knows something about this killer and stuff. So he grabs her to be like, I know you know where he is. And then he like freaks out and he's like, oh my God, I touched you. Am I like gonna die from AIDS or what? Like he gets super freaked out by it. And just because, you know, he's like, what's germophobic or whatever. He's like the Howie Mandel of
wow
of police people. So, and because of this, Jim, or the Spectre, freaks out and is like, what the fuck are you doing? And so he actually like attacks this cop, and I guess he doesn't like kill him, but he like makes him understand like he basically freaks him out with his past. Like he has his whole family that died of sickness attack him in this realm, and it freaks him out. And that's where we understand like why he is so germophobic and so freaked out around Amy specifically. And, you know, he is like, I'm sorry, I don't want to be like this, but I am freaked out. And she's like, get the fuck out, basically. Like, you know, like, I don't need you or whatever. So that's kind of like the main thing that's happening in this. In the meantime, like we said, that demon is possessing other people and murdering people throughout.
Just getting stronger in the background.
Yeah, for sure. So then the next issue starts, and this one is more kind of like the Asmodeus killers going around and killing people. And this is the one where like Spectre finds him and confronts him. So that's like, even though this is kind of fucked up, the last couple issues of this are Amy being terrified that she's going to be killed because that's what Madame Xanadu told her is going to happen. And the Spectre being like, yeah, I'll be here for you, don't worry. But also, I'm going to leave you here alone in your apartment and go like avenge stuff or whatever, you know, like, because the Spectre is so like sidetracked by vengeance that he just needs to do that and leave her alone or whatever. So, so she's like freaking out about that. So that's kind of like where she is. And then we get, so the Asmodeus is going around killing people. Spectre starts fighting him. Once again, it looks like Spectre is not going to work for Spectre because, the demon is in his power realm or whatever. And, you know, there's like that happens quite a bit. It happens
a couple times. And I thought, they make it seem a little bit each time. Because
each time is different enough. Yeah, I won't say it's repetitive. It's only repetitive in that the Spectre goes inside of someone and then they try to fight him. And then usually the Spectre ends up winning or whatever. So, but, I mean, that makes sense. It's what happens in every comic, right? Because, you got to have fights and shit, right? Yeah. And you can't kill the hero. But in the meantime, the AIDS killer kills again. He dresses up like a priest and then kills a woman in a church. And this is like where they find out. I think this is where they find out the cops realize, she had AIDS. All of these people have had AIDS. Yeah. This is this is the killer's MO. And so, like that's like the main part of this where Oh, that's what it was as well. The cops had already figured this out. Okay, so the cops figured out that the AIDS thing was like the MO, and Amy didn't know about that. Then when Nate came into her apartment last issue and yelled at her, he told her that's how he was trying to warn her, like, hey, you have AIDS. This guy kills women with AIDS. I think he's going to be after you or whatever. And she gets pissed at him for not telling her that sooner because he knew for a while. And so in this issue, the killer like just picks up the newspaper that day after he murders that woman in the church. And it turns out Amy being mad at the cop was like, I'm going to tell the newspapers this. Maybe it will save some people. But what it actually does is when the newspaper writes a story about it, they cite her as the source for this information. Mm-hmm. They show her picture and her name, and this serial killer, the AIDS killer, Danny Geller, yeah. He sees the paper, sees her name, and he's like, "That's what I've been looking for. That's what I've been trying to find this woman forever." So obviously he knows who she is now. We didn't know that they knew each other necessarily, just that he was looking for women who had AIDS, and we knew that she had AIDS. But apparently he knows her specifically. And he confronts her later on and says, like, you gave me AIDS. We find out that he's got AIDS, and that's why he's going around killing women who also have AIDS, because he's pissed off at them or whatever. It's kind of like a weird misogynistic vibe to him, obviously.
Yeah, very fucked up.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what's going on. And then the last couple issues are like basically her being terrified that she's going to be killed by this guy. And Madame Xanadu says, like there's nothing you can do about it. So in the meantime, Nate, the policeman, Nate Kane, has been outside her apartment just keeping watch because he knows this killer's out there too, and he's trying to be a good guy. But he doesn't know what the guy looks like, obviously. So the killer actually walks by and sees Detective Kane and is like, "Oh, I got to make sure I like take that guy out because he's sitting there watching for her and stuff." And in the meantime, the priest that was in the church, they find him, and he's been like stabbed while like the serial killer was murdering the woman. He was just like stabbed and left in a closet. So he's about to die. He's being taken to the hospital, and the Spectre's like, oh shit, this guy knows what he looks like. I'm going to go try to talk to him. And the cops also are trying to talk to him and find out what this guy looks like. And so turns out the guy actually dies before the Spectre gets there. And they're like, oh, that's it. The cops are, at least. And Spectre's like, fuck no, I can go to heaven and like get his soul or whatever. He tries to go into heaven, and he's blocked by Michael, the Archangel Michael, who's like, you are not welcome here, Spectre. You're like not an angel. You're not a good person or whatever, you know? So like you can't cross these gates. And Spectre fucking takes Michael on. This was a very, very cool fight scene.
Yes, it was.
And to be fair, like this is one of the ones where he doesn't lose, or like he loses. He doesn't win against Michael, like for real. I mean, Michael's like, you did a good job, but like, you know, he's got God on his side or whatever. And so he ends up actually sending Spectre away, like, be gone, you know, Spectre. And like, you will not talk to him or whatever this day. And so Spectre does not get to talk to the guy. And he's very angry when he appears, and he's like, God damn it. Like, I was trying to find that guy. And so, and once again, he just left Amy at her house alone. He doesn't know that Nate is there, waiting, you know, trying to protect her and stuff. So, and she's just kind of freaking out at like every ring, every noise, you know, she's like, oh my God, is that the killer? Is that the killer? Is that the killer? So she gets pissed off at that and is like, you know what? I'm not a fucking victim. I'm going to like protect myself. So she gets a knife and she's like ready for anything kind of thing. And then eventually the Spectre does actually find out who the guy is. I can't remember how he finds out the guy, but he goes to Danny's house. And once again, I can't remember how he finds out that it's Danny, but he goes to Danny's house and he sees, oh, it's totally this guy, because he has like a picture of Amy from the newspaper with a knife through her head. And then like on the wall next to it, it says, found her, Ma. I got the address. Because of course, like a lot of serial killers, they got fucked up by their moms or whatever. So
got some parental issues. Usually.
It's a trope, but it is a trope that is true sometimes. So, we're like now back at Amy's house, and Spectre's like, oh shit, I know who it is. He's going after Amy like now, probably, because now he knows who she is. So Danny Geller, the serial killer, approaches Detective Kane and is like, "Hey, I got you some coffee, buddy." And he's like, "Oh, thanks, man." And then he proceeds to beat the shit out of Kane with a what's that called? A blackjack? Is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little sack full of marbles or whatever the fuck it is. It's something like that. It's got full of lead or whatever.
The little leather straps that had the little like ball of lead or something.
Ball bearings or something in them. I don't know. But yeah, he I don't know if he kills him. I don't think he does. Right? He
bludgeons him.
Bludgeons him and knocks him out. And when that happens, the Spectre finds the detective like right as he's getting knocked out, and he's like, "I'm gonna attack the serial killer now. No problem. I'll kill him." And as he does, the demon Asmodeus makes a deal with the serial killer. He's like, "Hey, let me inhabit your body, and I will take on this guy, and you can be evil and murder and shit." So that's basically what he does. He makes a deal with the demon, and they begin to fight cosmically. This is a pretty badass fight as well, where he's fighting the demon Asmodeus in like it's a realm that they're destroying planets and shit, but it's not real. It's like a dream realm or some shit, or it's like a Spectre realm.
And it's really interesting because so Asmodeus does this, and he pulls him into this realm, which I guess is happening inside of his mind, but that leaves the
serial killer is there, awake, so on his own now.
Yeah, so he's like, "Oh, well, I guess I can go kill this woman."
Yeah, so the Spectre's, I imagine the Spectre's just sitting there passed out and while this is going on, and then the serial killer's like, "Well, that was easy," and then he goes upstairs to kill Amy. And like I said, Amy's ready for him, but then she looks out her window and sees Kane is bloody and beaten on the sidewalk, and the Spectre is nowhere to be found because he's in that realm or whatever. The demon has taken him to his realm. And so she's like, "Oh shit, he's there. He's here," or whatever. And so as she's about to run out the door, the guy kicks it in. The serial killer kicks the door in and is coming after her with a knife. And she fights him pretty valiantly, I think. She is able to get a couple licks in, but he does actually stab her pretty good. He slices her stomach open, or her abdomen open. And this is all interwoven with the Spectre fighting the demon. So there's a lot going on. But she does get her licks in though. She cuts his face with a knife. She does pretty good as she's running away and stuff. And
through all of this, there's also Madame Xanadu is I guess she's trying to figure out.
She's trying to help the Spectre. Yeah, because so she needs to help him get back once he defeats the demon, because he's in this weird realm that the demon dragged him into. So she's kind of trying to find him in this realm and then waiting for him to win or lose or whatever so she can bring him back so he can save Amy. But as of now, Amy is by herself running outside. She has jumped out of her apartment and he has followed her, the serial killer. So serial killer's chasing her. And in the meantime, Spectre beats the demon. Madame Xanadu pulls him back. And it's, like I said, pretty cool fight scene with the demon. And then, unfortunately, Amy, who has been told, you're not going to get away from this. You're going to die. She goes down an alley that is a dead end, unfortunately. And the serial killer comes at her and, basically stabs her. And then Kane is able to get up finally from being knocked out, and he's stumbling around saying Amy. And as the Spectre comes back and Detective Kane goes around the corner, we see the serial killer stabbing her again, and then the Spectre comes and stops the serial killer in his tracks, as he's about to make the final blow or whatever.
Yeah.
And he gets away. He actually runs away from the Spectre, which I was like, what? How can you run from the Spectre? But he runs away and then leaves Amy there. And Amy's like, "No, don't leave me."
Yeah, I do love this because you have a moment of Jim being like, "Oh, we have to stay and help Amy," and he's like, "Yes, Amy, I've got you. Everything's gonna be okay." And then the Spectre's like, "No, we must go after him. He must pay for judgment now."
Yeah, and he's like, "But I don't want to leave her." And so he's like, I have to go. And she's just like, "Please, don't leave me, Jim," because once again, she needs human connection or whatever, right? So she's dying. She needs someone there with her. And then Detective Kane sees her and he runs up and he's about to or he grabs her, but then he sees there's blood all over him and he's like, "Oh shit, I can't touch you because you have AIDS and you're bleeding now." And that's a problem. And then she's don't leave me. He's like, don't worry, I'll go get help. So he leaves her. So she's just in this alley dying.
Bleeding out
by herself. In the meantime, you have the Spectre, fighting this guy and trying to track him down and everything. There's some weird, there's some interesting, cool fight scenes with this where like the guy's going back and like they're inside of his head, I think.
Yeah.
Because the Spectre like possesses him and it's just interesting like mind into the or interesting travel into the mind of the serial killer that we're seeing while he's fighting him. But the Spectre wins, of course, because he's fucking awesome. And I think the guy shoot himself in the head? Is that what? Oh no, Kane shoots him in the head. Like the guy is the serial killer is fighting the Spectre in his mind. So his eyes are like whited out or whatever as he's like in this realm, and fucking Kane just goes up to him and shoots him in the fucking head, which is pretty great. But it also takes away the kill from the Spectre, and the Spectre's very angry.
Oh yeah, he comes out. He's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, he's like, "I was about to kill him. God damn it!" So that's like how this like basically ends with Amy dies by herself. Madame Xanadu finds her and is like the only person that stays with her, right? So
yeah.
So Madame Xanadu is there with her when she dies, but then Nate and Jim, they missed it because they were too busy getting vengeance for her murderer and leaving her alone. Mm-hmm. And so Jim finds her body at the morgue or whatever, and Nate runs in, or Detective Kane runs in, and it's like, oh my God, like I wasn't there for her kind of thing. And then Madame Xanadu's like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like her last moments on Earth were alone in an alley because you guys are dicks. And with someone who she didn't even know, like me or whatever. And so like,
and Nate's like, go get her body, because I know you, or her soul, I know you can do this.
Yeah, I guess Nate has heard stories or whatever now, or we've at least seen that Spectre can go and get souls that are about to go to heaven. So Spectre's like, well, worth a try. So Spectre goes up there, he finds Amy's soul. She's about to go to heaven. He says like, hey, do you want to like come home? And she's like, no, I want to go to heaven. And you could come with me. And he's like, I can't. Like, and they kiss and stuff, but he's like, I can't. So, and she says, okay, well, I'll be waiting for you when you are like ready to come home. And so he comes back to Earth. He's like super pissed off and sad and very, very distraught at the end. He's saying like Amy, and he pulls off his hat his cloak.
His cloak, yeah.
And he's very distraught at the end because he wasn't there for her when she needed. And that's kind of the end of this. It's very like depressed note, I will say, but it was a really good story, I thought, overall. So that being the end of this, John, what would you give it? What did you think?
I liked this a lot. Everything, the story in this never felt dull. Like you said, there may have been some
stories,
some filler that hit similar notes, but each one was different enough to keep me like entertained. Though I never was like, oh, this, like again or whatever.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's different enough.
Well, like there's that ghost story, then there's the kidnapping story, stuff like that, or like just the gang fights and stuff. They're all different enough that you want to know what happens in those mysteries themselves.
And you get a little bit, like you said, you get a little bit more of his power. And like some of them, he's just inside the head of the guy. The one he goes to fucking hell to pull the guy back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff in this. And you get a lot of, like you said, you find out a lot about his powers and like how strong and powerful and like crazy of a character he is. And again, not really that much of a good guy.
Yeah.
More of just like
it's just black and white vengeance.
Yeah, exactly. So but I mean overall I really enjoyed it, and like definitely have not read a character like this before. So it's very unique. Yeah, it was very cool. And again, in the art, there's one thing I really liked about this. I forget his name. I feel so bad.
Tom Mandrake.
Yeah, Tom Mandrake does this thing, his line work, where he's drawing like something, mainly with the Spectre, either like coming in and out of a body or like the way it's inhabiting something, and the way like he does all these lines,
swooshes and stuff,
swooshes, and then has the Spectre in a spectral form of him like coming through that somehow is so cool. And it's done so many different ways.
Very creative.
I really loved every time I saw that. I was like, oh, that's badass. Like I really thought those were really unique.
Yeah. And I didn't say it, but the name of this trade is called Crime and Judgment. So if you're looking for it, it's volume 1 of the John Ostrander. It's the third volume. the third comic volume of. This is the trade volume number 1 of that volume, and so yeah, so one from 1992 by John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake.
Yeah.
So
Tom Mandrake. I really enjoyed that, and that in particular, just something about his line work was just really cool. And there's never wasted space on here too.
No,
everything is
very creative panel layouts and everything, just top notch art, I would say.
So overall, I'm gonna give it an 8. Like this was definitely above average for me, and I totally would read more.
Yeah, I really, really liked this. Once again, this is a character that I haven't really read. I'd actually read a little bit of this trade and then like paused for a second after issue 2. And then like when I saw, we're just going to put this in the poll, I was like, then I'll just read it all then. So, and like I said, I thought this was going to be like a 6-issue story arc and it ended up being 12. So that's why this episode is a little bit longer, but like it didn't feel like that. When I read it, like the stories were well paced and got to the point and said all the information that they needed to, and every story was good and every issue was good. There was no like issues where like, well, that was a dud in 12 issues. That's pretty fucking rare for a comic series nowadays, especially, or at least one of those 12 ain't good. Everyone led to there was a reason for it. Like he goes to hell. Like the kidnapping story is just a way for you to understand he can go to hell. He fights a demon. And he's got to fight a demon later on. So, like, that makes sense. So we're just setting all that stuff up. But in a good way, like in a perfect way. So, and the art, I just was blown away by the art in this. Like, I don't know. Like, this is like top. This isn't 90s, like, over the top, like image stuff or whatever. This is like DC. It felt like it could have been early 80s. It felt like Sam Keith a lot, like from Sandman or that style. I really felt like this was a Vertigo title. From the late 80s.
It was super dark for being a like shelf DC comic and not like you said, like Vertigo. Right?
Yeah. And once again, this guy is not a hero, like traditionally at least. So, I mean, I can see how he could be in certain situations, but I like that they give him like this duality of like, I want to be here with Amy as she's dying, and that's my Jim Corrigan side, but then I'm like, the more powerful Spectre side is like, fuck you, I will kill, the guy or whatever, and like leave her to die raining in an alley or whatever. It's just like, the fuck, like super hard hitting. Yeah. I don't know. I really, really, really like this, and I highly recommend everybody check this out because it was awesome. I'm going to give this a 9.
Oh wow!
This 12 issues run was a fantastic run. I don't know about the rest of it, but this was very, very strong first year of this comic for sure. So, and then, like I said, the covers were fantastic. Vertigo covers for sure. You had Charles Vess, who did Stardust with Neil Gaiman.
Oh, nice.
And then Glenn Fabry, who did all the covers for Preacher. So, you get like, there's a certain feel that you get from those covers.
Yeah. Some of the covers were very like almost darker than some of the issues with their looks. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just fucking love this. And now I'm like, I'm glad I bought that Spectre pop. That's all I'm saying.
And now he's going to collect all of the Spectre.
Hey, I was already doing that. When I found him, but I like to go back in those dollar bins and just, these are really easy to find, because they're not this is D-list character in DC.
That's true.
And those are my favorite. Honestly, they're like just under the radar so that they get to have shit like this where like if it was Superman, you can't have Superman do any of this shit. So like with this character, with the Spectre, you're like, we'll just let John Ostrander kind of do what he wants to do. He gets to tell a story he wants to tell. There's not really any like super oversight. I'm sure there's like a little bit, but it's not like what it would be if he's writing Wonder Woman or Batman or something, So like this story is just super fucked up in like a good way and exactly what I want to see in a comic. It's not by the numbers. It's a really cool character. It's a cool premise and a cool idea. Very recommended. Definitely check that out. So you give it an 8. I give it a 9. What are we reading next week, John?
Next week, we're reading Animal Man as part of our Patreon poll. So just a reminder, if you sign up for Patreon, we do a poll every month. And right now we're picking some characters that we haven't given as much love or any love on the channel yet.
Yeah.
Kind of give you an idea. Sometimes we might choose like genres or like maybe some mangas, just a couple different things that they're out there. So sign up for a Patreon if you want to be part of that. This next one is straight from that Animal Man.
Yes.
And we're doing the
Grant Morrison one. This is the 80s one. That is, I guess, volume 2. I don't know. It was the revamp because I guess he had, like previous to this, Animal Man was a guy that has animal powers or whatever. Like, and then Grant Morrison was like, can I make that better in the late 80s, just like Neil Gaiman was doing with Sandman, just like Alan Moore was doing with Swamp Thing. You take a character that already exists and make him better and make him cooler. You got a cool idea. So Grant Morrison turns Animal Man into like an animal rights activist, which makes sense because he's fucking Animal Man. And then he gives him a new kind of backstory origin that doesn't fuck with his old origin, but it just adds to it. So it like embellishes a bit on it and stuff.
That's cool. I'm excited to read it because we honestly, just a little back on this, I specifically think Animal Man has been on our list of characters that we were going to do
for
since like
2 years.
Since pretty much we started this podcast.
I was like, oh, we should totally read that.
Gonna do Animal Man.
You know, the problem is like no one knows who Animal Man is, so I'm always like, well, let's read something else, you know, like a more known character. But because we put him on the poll, and Otaku Mike is a big Animal fan or Animal Man fan, or just wants to know who that is, you know, more about him. So we're gonna read. Actually, we're gonna do 2 trades. So not next week. Next week we're gonna read the Grant Morrison first trade of that run, and then in a couple weeks, like we'll give it a little bit of time, we're gonna read the Jeff Lemire New 52 run of Animal Man. Just
because you said it was also good.
Fantastic. One of the best horror books I've ever read.
I'm super excited to read it.
I mean, and also it intercuts with Swamp Thing of New 52, which I enjoyed very much. So, you know, I love me some Swamp Thing, and Animal Man was super fucked up and creepy. Dare I say more horrific than the Swamp Thing stuff. So I was pretty freaked out when I read that, like, wow, this is like super heavy. So some really fucked up stuff happens to Animal Man in that run. So that's going to happen in July. We'll read the first trade of that.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff in July, so keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate Shark Week.
Celebrate Shark Week. We'll probably do something again with something small for 4th of July. We got some fun stuff cooked up.
Yeah. So with that being said, once again, if you would like to join our Patreon, please support us at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books at gmail.com, all one word.
All one word. And don't forget about our Instagram, YouTube channel for exclusive content, and Twitter and TikTok. We've got all the sites up and running. Check us out everywhere. Comics are viewable now.
Very, very smooth, John. Anyway, so with that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.